Hey, we are live.
Are we live?
Wow.
I would wait because we might not actually be live
No,
yet. It takes a
you're live.
second.
I see the
Okay,
numbers
now
rolling.
we're live.
I know.
Brett Chittum, Business Technicalities. I'm here with Jason Slagle. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jason Slagle. Well,
A-
CWR. Yeah.
And
Well,
guess who's
CWR.
joining us?
And Tom Lawrence.
A wild
And-
time
Oh
has
my
appeared.
And someone's listening to the thing.
Someone's listening. We didn't give much time. That was my fault, and I apologize for
Someone's
that.
got to mute theirs. We're getting feedback.
What?
hmm,
I don't hear feedback. Maybe
I
it's
don't have
me.
any feedback. That's got to be you, Tom.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
It was me.
It was me.
So we'll talk for a second. Why are we live, right? So we record these
Yeah.
Tuesday mornings at 9:00. Typically, Brett and I do. As it turns out, I was in Vegas at ChannelCon last week, and I was not going to get up at 6 a.m. just to record with Brett. I was actually up at 6 a.m, but I was in the gym at 6 a.m. So I decided, or we talked about it yesterday, and kind of decided that, you know what, we've been talking about doing a live one anyways. We do it today, and Brett, you and I may record. I have another topic that I picked out for us that we may record later today to get back on a normal cadence. But I know you're off today.
Absolutely.
So
How's
it going?
already? So we're good. It's going well. It's we're having a lot of fun. Tom, how's it going for you?
Going very well. And Brett, your microphone's doing this. It's dropping
Yeah.
out.
Is it really? Huh, that's interesting. Huh.
That's
Can you
better
hear me
Better
now?
now. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm doing well. If nobody heard that. And Tom, how are you doing?
So far, so good. It's a wonderful Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I see you're moving your arm a little bit. That's
I have use of both hands again, so that's been it's been amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for those that didn't know, Tom got into a nice little motorcycle accident and
Self-inflicted completely.
totally.
So we're just over a month since this all happened here. So I figured I will say at ChannelCon last week, you especially were missed, Tom. I had I don't know how many people come up and say, "Where's Tom at?" I like the event because of how many like super engaged people are there, but the format's a little weird. And I know last year I didn't think you were kind of so
I like the people, and that's really it. I hate to say it. Me and you discussed this before when we go to these events. We actually talked about not just ChannelCon, but other events, just not having content that's as engaging for people like me and you. Not that we're some know-it-alls, but sometimes it's like there's so much one-on-one content. Just kind of, I love the conversations we have with people there. I like interacting with other people. That's always where the real learning and the real fun is.
Yeah, right. So you and I are potentially, personally, not even business related, going to go out to VCF here in a couple of weeks in Chicago. Because we figure that's going to be engaging content.
Yes.
We're going to get to hang out with all the YouTube nerds that I think you and I both watch.
Yes, we do.
Usagi Electric, and
Usagi, 8-Bit Guy, all those people.
I think Adrian will be there. Adrian Black, a bunch of them. So
I'm feeling left out. Wait a minute here. That's not fair.
I don't know. Do you nerd around that?
Somewhat, but not as much as you guys do. So.
I mean, I've got that Vax in the basement that I was thinking about trying to see if I could get going and maybe make some content around that. But let's go back to the business stuff.
Yeah,
the business stuff. Yeah.
So, again, about 1 month post merger here. It's about a month and a week, and things are going. They are. I will say. Even talking to Matt yesterday, right? So Matt's been pretty busy, potentially busier than any of us, honestly. And he even said yesterday when I talked to him that things seem to be settling down a little bit. What's the general feel from each of you as far as the general feeling that we've had going on for the past month? Brett?
Well, I will tell you, for me, it started out as because I was just, I had to learn all your systems, right? I had to go through and not only that, had to continue doing the sales stuff that came from LTS, right? And work with 2 account managers that were both brand new as well. And take some semblance of order and really what I realized is this. You and Matt were the guys that were going to teach us all the systems. My job was just to calm people down. Calm people down at this moment and say, you know what? We're gonna do it like we would eat an elephant, one bite at a time. We're gonna handle one client at a time. We're not gonna try to bite off more than we can chew.
How about you, Tom?
For me, I talked to the Detroit people the most. I stopped up yesterday and got some olives. That's one of the things that Kyle likes a lot. I always drop off food for them. I know the foods they like. But anyways, they seem to have settled down into a cadence finally. And it's kind of cool because it was, I don't know what I'm doing, but there's a lot to do. So I guess I'll go do things and kind of figure it out. And, they knew to service the tickets and service the clients. They weren't sure how to update the internal systems that you use because it's kind of hard to learn all of them all at once and be thrown into the system. And they seem to have settled down like, oh, okay, I see this. This is organized. I can do these things. Miles is like, oh, these tasks now make sense to me. Now there's an order to them. And I think actually that helps him because he was easily distracted before. Now he's like, hey, everything's got like a cadence. These are the things assigned to me. I can block out the other things. And they're showing an understanding of how to do it, how to get these tasks accomplished, how to do the documentation, where that goes. And they're slowly pulling from the Lawrence documentation and landing it in the CNWR one kind of as they go. And I think that's really a nice thing to see because that's when we start getting the value out of it is actually building the process and making sure everyone's in it.
Yeah, it's we have a question. So I see it. We'll get to it here in a little bit. Well, no, we can tackle it now.
That question.
Yeah, we'll tackle it now. So Mr. JOV or Job Technologies is asking about how does terminating services work? I don't know. Once we figure it out, we'll let you know. We as of yet, we can kind of cut ahead a little bit here. We briefly talked about sales. On my little very quick agenda I slapped together this morning, I had sales prefer services, but we can go there. I will tell you, we haven't made official decisions on anything yet other than I believe we're going to go to Zorus from DNS Filter, right? So,
we chose Bitwarden.
Yeah, that is true. We chose Bitwarden. And that one, you know what? I'm paying for it. We're under contract for a while yet, I think till March or something. And, I'm just going to continue paying it. And we're moving to Bitwarden. So, yeah, that one we did choose. I guess it is technically an MSP tool. But
it's still a tool we use at Lawrence Systems that's now carried into CNWR.
Yep, it's nice. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift for me. I will admit that my stuff is still sitting in LastPass because I haven't migrated it over yet, but it's on my list of things potentially to do this weekend because just too busy. I seem to be chopping up there a little bit.
It's sounding fine on this end, so you know.
Okay. As far as that goes, the first place we're going to encounter that is we're moving, I think, from our clients from DNS Filter over to Zorus. And I haven't reviewed the contract terms, but again, we'll move them at a date in time that it makes sense to based on contractual terms, right? So say we decide to move our Automate to Ninja, right? Then I won't do that until probably about 90 days before the Automate contract ends. I'll notify to terminate, and then we'll migrate the clients over in that window. So, that'll be a process. And in the meantime, we're just going to maintain two, right? It's not... Right. For a lot of these tools, it's not super onerous to maintain too, right? Mm-hmm. Especially because we've got expertise in both of them, right? And so if we make the decision that we're moving, I'll use back to DNS Filter and Zorus, we will not put any more clients on DNS Filter, right? We'll just start all new clients on both branches of the company. Will end up going into Zorus, and then over time we'll start migrating the existing clients over, and then at the end of the contract term we'll terminate it. So it's not that big a deal. I am assuming the contracts for these, right? So I am obligated, especially if Tom was winding the company down, then we could just declare bankruptcy and we could probably walk away from them, but we're not doing that. And that's a jerk move anyways. So we try not to be jerks, so we're probably good. We're
maintaining good relationships with all the vendors, because that's always, even the vendors that aren't good, it's still better to maintain a good relationship and keep your name up. We don't want to be the people we make fun of,
unless you're spamming me, in which case,
that's a whole different.
And then you're gonna blast them out on video. I mean, if you guys all saw that last night, that was great. Oh my gosh.
I think it's worth noting too, because directly related to terminating contracts and services, but also how you're going forward. We just onboarded a new MSP client 6 days ago now. And once again, they loaded up on Ninja, they loaded up on Zoros, all the new tooling on there. So, things that might be going to sunset or legacy, we're not adding more clients to it. And actually that was interesting because from an onboarding standpoint, we did both teams. So we had people from Lawrence, people from CNWR working the project together. So the onboarding is now the first, I think that's the first official MSP onboarding from zero to full stack.
It is. I mean, and that was a co-managed client. And so they didn't get our full MSP stack, right? But they did get help desk buttons, right? Which is a tool that we use that you guys weren't using anything like it. So, they essentially got the Lawrence stack, right, with the CNWR additions to it to cover the things that we were doing that you weren't doing. That makes sense based on their contracted value to do. So let's move back to sales for a minute. Mr. Chittum, right? So I cannot say how happy I am to no longer have to lead a sales team. I've been doing it for
begrudgingly
some amount of the word doing for several years now, but I'm not good at it. And so it's been really a breath of fresh air to have you there to start taking it. And we are, as you pointed out, we do have that problem where you are attempting to lead without knowing any of our tools. But how are you getting along with sell and manage for the sales process along with HubSpot? Because we actually use all three of those tools at various points of the sales cycle. How are you getting along with that?
Well, after the first quote that took me 6.5 hours to do, no, I'm getting along with it. Well, I know, Tom, you and I had a question or a conversation about, well, is Invoice Ninja easier? Is Sell easier? And I said Invoice Ninja was a lot easier, but with Sell and the integration of Manage, you see a lot more. You see the numbers. You see where the margins are at, and I've been impressed with seeing that up front as opposed to trying to figure out on the back end. I'm getting along well with that. I think the team is as well. Travis and Brett Boggs they're doing well. I'm impressed with what Boggs is doing because he jumped into something. He was the sales guy hired in. Then right at the merger, your account manager said, "Oh, I'm going away," and then Brett Boggs, he's put into this and he's done fantastic on his end, and just not being in this industry at all or ever, highly impressed. So I think we've got a good, strong team. I think with Travis and Brett, and then building on to another salesperson that we're looking to hire within the next week or so.
Yep.
It's we're in a great position. I think you see the numbers when you go into Sell and when you go into the opportunities and see where we're at with new business sales. I think we're close to what, right? I mean, we're doing okay.
We're doing pretty good. And I mean, there's mistakes. We've had cases where we've already had new salespeople. I think every new salesperson so far is lost us money on a deal. And, I think that's honestly like a rite of passage as far as using the tools go, because, we set some rules, and it's not necessarily, it wasn't a margin problem. It was in the case of the Detroit, the Southgate people, it was we have always done it this way, but we don't know why we've done it this way necessarily. And I have the data, like I'm very data driven, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like margin is king. And so we know what the margin is on all of our things. We know how much money we're making. We inform our decisions based on that. Like, we don't want to make too much money because we're not trying to gouge the customers, but we need to make enough money to make it work. Because I got like all the bodies to cover because it's a much larger team. And in the case we had an onboarding, that it's like, we billed, basically $25 a workstation to onboard it. And, onboarding it to our bigger stack, that's essentially 10 minutes a workstation, 7 minutes a workstation at normal rates. And obviously we exceeded that by a lot. And then, we had Brett, who sold a laptop and just threw an hour on it to configure it. And, we have data that suggests
not me, not me, Brett.
No, that one wasn't you. It was the other Brett that, it's like somewhere in the 2.5 to 3 hours is typically what we end up spending by the time we migrate data and do the other stuff. Right. So they're not huge deals. Right. And it's part of the learning process. And as we get to services, we can cover that a little bit, because I have very strong opinions about some of that journey and what it takes to actually be successful. And guess what? Failing is part of it, right? And allowing people to make mistakes in a controlled way, so that we can show them, we can take it all the way through to completion, and we can go, see, this is why we do it this way, because here's the outcome of running it that way. Because I've been reviewing most of those things, and I could have probably saved both of them, but it's small enough money that whatever. The lesson will come better learned if we have the data to show it.
What's good is you do have a good review process, and the ability to actually review something before it's sent out. So I did enjoy that. I do enjoy that. It's been helpful now moving forward for us to look at, okay, what have you quoted? Let's kind of figure this out, and then figuring out where all the buckets go, right? That's the next step, because we found that some things went into the wrong buckets, but we can change them on the back end, but let's change them on the front end now.
Yeah.
It's been a cool journey. I will say that, to say the least, it's been a cool journey.
I always like that quote. Is a former CEO of IBM. They asked when he was going to fire someone who cost him almost $1 million for a big mistake. He says, "Why would I fire someone I spent $1 million training?"
Yeah, exactly that. Right. It's again, I could have caught it in the couple cases,
but it's not. It was minor. It wasn't $1 million mistake.
No. I mean, it's in this case, the one project, it ended up going in with 5 hours. We're sitting at 20 on it, and we had a debrief on it yesterday, and everything's going to be fine. And I think everyone understands. Oh, okay, this is why, right? And even in that meeting yesterday, I started out the meeting, and I like to do this a lot, right? There were 6 of us in this meeting, and I'm like, this meeting is costing us approximately $250 an hour, if not more, right? So it's like, let's not keep this meeting going any longer than we absolutely need to, because when you have a ton of employees, or you have large meetings, they get very expensive very quickly. Yeah. Let's go to marketing. I'm kind of throwing an audible here. We haven't really done a ton. Tom, I know I think in theory, besides crashing yourself, have had probably a little more time to work on the video content stuff you're doing. Is that okay? I see you releasing videos at a pretty good cadence.
Yeah, and that's going up even more because there's a lot of stuff in process I've been working on. That's why I was actually working on some of the automation that I needed your approval for to get all my workflow, so I'm less distracted and focused on things. Because obviously in the first 30 days, it was a lot of me assisting Matt or whoever, any things that weren't documented, as we call them tribal knowledge. Hey, Tom, what about this? What about this? I was making sure I was always available for anything that you guys might need to get the transition going. And now that I feel, because this is a question I get a lot, is, hey, Tom, what does it feel like letting go that you're not the president anymore? I said, great. I said, I've handed over to very competent people. And after it only took us about 30 days to get all the systems out of my head and into CNWR's hands. So it's going well. I didn't expect it to actually happen as fast. Like ideally on paper, we'll get this done in 30 days, but we actually kind of did as far as the part I facilitate. We're not complete, but the part I facilitate and my involvement in is pretty much, any systems I either made you an admin of, or I helped with, like, I have a lot familiar with Bitwarden, so I helped structure and set that up with Matt and get it done. Once we have the expertise in house on it, lean on me for it. And once it's passed off to all the other people and we're in use, awesome.
Yeah, and one of the things.
Question for Jason though.
Yeah, go.
So obviously me and Brett were very aware of the YouTube machine, and you knew of it. That's part of the reason for the merger. But how do you feel now that you see the YouTube machine and see the leads coming in and all the crazy sometimes, and the good and the bad that comes all with it? What's your thoughts on that?
The YouTube machine is interesting. So I will say the YouTube machine is in many cases a quantity over quality. And it's great, right? Like a lot of those are good opportunities, and we will say yes to as many of them as we possibly can. The trick on the sales side is going to be to determine which of those you try to action on to take further down the funnel, right? It's like, you know, they have that one particular ask and it's like, okay, well, they clearly don't have an understanding of this, and this is a much bigger thing than they're trying to do. So how do we try to leverage that and turn it into something managed or something a little bit more? And it's a process, right? We don't. Don't think we'll ever be a hard sales kind of company, right? But it's, you know, just reaching back to some of those leads.
Wait a minute, we are going to be, because that's my job.
Yeah, well, it's sales driven, but we're dealing with all these are inbound leads that come in from YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring out the way to put them into the right funnels, to the right, where should they land? Because some of them are just basic one-offs.
Yeah.
And like, hey, can we do this? And Jason's working on better integration. We've used a tool, You Can Book Me, for a while to make it easy to access technicians. That has had to mature a lot to integrate into the NextWise system. And Jason has some cool ideas that he's working with some developers that make some other products so we can deeper integrate it. Matter of fact, that might be a selling thing we talked about when it's done, because these vendors don't see it as the opportunity they are, but once it's done, this is something they can sell to other people as well.
I had a 10-minute conversation we use TimeZest, right, to do booking out of our managed calendars. And I had a 10-minute conversation at ChannelCon with one of the guys from TimeZest saying, hey, I need this feature for this reason, and this is the use case. And he's like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. And I'm like, yeah, it actually is a really good idea. So build it for me.
Next time you talk to him, can you tell him also to be able to block times that you're not available? I think
you can do that. You just got to do it in the settings. No, you probably just don't have access.
Yeah, it's a permissions thing. I'm a sales guy. I don't get much.
When you're down here tomorrow, I'll help you set that up. So easy enough. Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that, and we've got a process. I actually was asking Matt yesterday, like, why is the You Can Book Me client in Manage trying to bill $1,900? He's like, oh, you need to treat it like the CNWR client. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with that process, and it's fine. Like, none of this again. I've led the entirety of this process has been the edict and the mandate I gave on day one when I met with everybody was like, service the client, we'll work the rest of it out later. Right. Yeah. I still admittedly, Tom probably doesn't even know this. This week will be the first week I bill hourly stuff that we've done with LTS because the scaffolding is just now in place and managed with the rate overrides to not misbill the rate on some of these clients. Right. So the same thing with the You Can Book Me stuff, right? It's coming over. It's in the P&L. The Stripe data is all integrated and stuff like that now, right? But those guys need it on their managed calendar. So right now there's just a client it's coming in as, and we have to reconcile that on the back end. And that's next. Actually, I was supposed to have that. My goal was to have that done by last Friday. My goal is actually to get it done by this Friday, to have some sort of integration to manage that a little more succinctly.
Well, I mean, I think also even with the leads coming in, we still have to look at pointed marketing at certain demographics. And I think once we get a sales person on board, we're going to be able to still, guide them into that with outbound calling as well. I mean, we have a slew of leads from the LTS side that are untapped through the consulting market. We have you have lists of people and businesses within the Toledo, and we got the Detroit market. There's a lot to be done. And I think the outbound will not stop. The inbound is going to continue, of course. Every time Tom does a video, we get, a bunch of things that say, hey, I want that.
Yeah. And some of them are interesting.
Yeah, and that's okay.
We're about to get a bunch of MSP ones.
Yeah,
I have a couple MSP on my list I'm working on now.
Well, we also have Tom and I a VMware one that I think you and I are starting to set up, because one of the things Tom is doing for us is we're starting to create some internal content. Some of it'll go external too, right? But it's like we're starting to create some lab ideas and around things that Tom maybe isn't as knowledgeable about. So we got some VMware content that him and I are going to tag team coming up, because I'm very knowledgeable on VMware, them not so much. So like how to upgrade VMware sanely when you only use one host, stuff like that. So we'll drive some of that stuff in. But man, some of those leads that come out of like videos like that, it's like,
can we do that?
No, we 100% can do all of them, but it's like I'm trying to make this my home network super overly complicated with 17,000 VLANs where nothing can talk to anything unless it's the second Tuesday at 3 p.m. And it's like, yes, we can help you with that, but do you really want to?
The person
you really want it.
Me and Jay from Learn Like CV, we've had a lot of discussions about this because the number of people now that want to build giant Ceph clusters to store things on in their home lab make no sense to me. Like they have no idea how it works, no idea how to set it up, and they're very stuck. And I'm like, I don't think you realize how complicated building a Ceph cluster and then updating, or even a large Kubernetes cluster. Like even as skilled as the people are at Reddit went down for a couple of days because they upgraded Kubernetes and everything flew to pieces.
I just got to say this, because if Tom says it, doesn't mean you should do it.
Well, no, Tom doesn't say to do it. This is a discussion, and this is very much a business related, is you don't build anything more complicated than you can support reasonably.
Right. Yep. 100%.
You start with the basics. One of your friends from ConnectWise in another group, we were chatting about this. He's like, yeah, we looked at that, but then we realized the updates were complicated and it just wasn't necessary. One of the leads that came in was actually a data center that had an idea, but when I explained to them what was needed for the idea, they go, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I'd need a specialist on staff every time there's an update. I'm like, yeah, if you build it, it's not all WYSIWYG clicky, set it up and go, but it's great. Don't worry. There are people inside the CNWR team that do Puppet and some other really cool scriptable
we can
things.
do Chef, we can do Ansible.
Yeah. Chef, Ansible, Puppet. Great. We can do those things. They come at a premium. They're not the cheap solution, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Before you answer that question,
absolutely reach out.
Before you bring up that question, I see you seen that. Let's go to service, because
we've
melted into that now.
I was kind of hoping to get Matt on, but he says he's too busy this morning, shockingly. He's Matt's swimming, I will say. So, I suggested before we drive down this road that he needed to elect a service leader down there. He hasn't done it yet, and I'm not sure. He might still. He's trying to get a handle on what that looks like and whether it's necessary. But Matt essentially has, I think, 12 direct reports now, which is too many. 100% it's too many. So we have to unflatten that structure a little bit and try to figure out how to handle it. From the services side, all of those guys are using Manage now. They're submitting timesheets. I know because they come across and for Kim to approve. Our dispatch, we've moved away from your fresh desk, right? Other than people that just don't seem to understand, even though they get an autoresponder with all caps red text that says this is dead and don't use it anymore. Other than those people that just can't seem to figure out how to email the new system instead, we are getting most of the tickets into Manage these days. Those guys are getting dispatched by our dispatcher, who is also, I believe her hair is relatively on fire because it's like, there's so many, right? Because we have, on the CNWR side, we have a good volume of tickets, but it's mostly tickets on existing clients. It's mostly tickets that are a little bit long. They're either solved by tier 1 and they're solved almost immediately, or they're a little bit longer, right? So the total volume of tickets that we're handling has gone up significantly. I believe they're doing a good job of handling that. And your team, your former team, they're doing great, right? It's they're taking it in stride. I think there was some amount of, I don't understand why we have to do this. They are now realizing some of the benefits that come along with doing it, and they're all happy. You had that video where they talked about invoicing, and it seemed like a cult because everyone seemed happy to invoice. It seems like they weren't actually all that happy to invoice. I'm sorry,
they were not.
That's that bubble for you. So they're very happy they no longer have to do that. Although for a while they felt like they weren't doing the job because they weren't doing that piece of it.
Hey man, I had them trained well on that. Yeah. I convinced them they were happy to invoice.
Just invoice.
That's a testament to you.
Does that make me a cult leader?
Because I'm not happy to invoice, and I'm dealing with most of the billing stuff. But yeah, I think services is going well. I think it's better. I will say that piece of it is 100% farther along than I thought it would be at this point of the transition. Right. I figured we would just now be looking to retire your fresh desk, and They wanted to do they wanted to come into our system, and Tom wanted them out of Fresh Desk, and we wanted them in. So we kind of ripped the Band-Aid off, and it's been a little bumpy, but we're making it work.
I'm a very much run forward. I think you had commented that I can be intense sometimes, but
yeah, I talked about that a lot this week at ChannelCon. That Tom is very much I mean, I'm relatively that I think a little more muted in my business owner stage than I am in technical stuff. But technical stuff, man, I am 100% run forward and clean up the mess I leave behind me. As far as the business stuff goes, I'm a little more cautious. You're very much run forward and clean up the mess that's behind us. And it was driving me a little crazy at first, but it was the right approach. I will 100% admit that, like, just ripping the Band-Aid off with Fresh Desk, I could have sat there for another 3 weeks and come up with a slightly, maybe 20% more efficient method to do that. But in the end, we spent less time cleaning up the mess we made than it would have taken me to not make that mess.
Right. Absolutely.
I've looked at things like that, much like you mentioned, when you have a bunch of people in a meeting, that it gets expensive. I think about the same things, like, well, how much time are we going to spend trying to put Band-Aid on this? Let's just break Fresh Desk.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if that comes from just my personality type or the fact that I've been running a business for 20 years as a founder. And especially in the early days, one of the things that, I've commented this, I have a few videos in my early days of channel where you just don't have anyone to lean on. So I never had anyone to ask. I guess I'm doing this. Especially, especially you, as you transition with Alan, you've talked to Alan, things like that. Me, I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I started a business in 2003. I was young and stupid. And so I said, I didn't know I couldn't do it. So
the implication there, sorry, Alan, is that Alan knew what he was doing.
Well, maybe
he will admittedly say he also, he started Slagle Internet Access back in 1995 and also didn't have any clue what he was doing. So
sometimes you're accidentally successful.
Yeah.
It happens.
So I've brought, I think, a little more business knowledge to it. Eventually, maybe I'll go get an MBA and make fun of myself like I make fun of all the other MBAs, because that's what I think you have to do at that point.
Go through the Goldman Sachs program. I'll sponsor you.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. That's actually, it's structure. Hey, there we go.
So billing update. Yeah, we'll give the final little update here, and then we had one more question come in, and we'll answer that, and then we'll wrap here. Billing's going. I've got all of the. So one of the decisions I made very early on in this, and it was partially fueled by, we had a client July 4th have an incident, and in dealing with that, what occurred to me, so my mind immediately goes to, okay, what's this look like from a risk to the company standpoint, right? Like, we're 3 days into this merger. I don't have a good handle on the company yet. Like, so in reviewing that, one of the things that came out of that is, man, we probably really need to get all of the former Lawrence clients to sign our master terms of sale. So for all the recurring clients, Travis on Brett's team has been going through and creating or basically sending quotes out that are right? They're all month-to-month quotes, which is what you ran. They're for the exact same amount with the exact same verbiage as what they are running inside of Invoice Ninja. However, they have my terms and conditions attached to them. And I think at this point, I'll pull the sheet here. 80%. We have like 9 left. There's a few more than 9 left. There's a couple I haven't sent quotes yet because they're annual and I haven't worked out how to handle those yet. But I mean, there's probably 6 left that have significant contract value attached to them, and then another probably 10 that are smaller contracts. And it's gone pretty well. We've gotten the standard red lines that I tend to get. Our contracts, our master terms of sale are probably a little more slanted in our favor than I would like. There's a couple of terms in there that probably should be mutual that our lawyer wrote them, and I was tired of going back and forth with them, so I took it. The next revision of it I have them do, I'll fix some of those. But so there's standard red lines. I just accept it. We've had a couple clients come back with more in-depth set of red lines. Some of them will take, right? Like if it makes sense to take them. We've got so far one client where I don't think we're going to accept them, and we're probably going to part ways, just because I'm willing to review any red lines that you send me, right? And I had this conversation back when no one knew who I was with Brad Gross. The state of Ohio won't accept like the liability part of your contract and your terms of sales with them. It needs a dollar value associated with it because in the state of Ohio, constitutionally, the state cannot enter into a contract with an unknown contract value, and that liability represents a potential unknown contract value. So you have to cap the liability with an actual dollar value there, or they cannot legally sign it. So that's a red line we've had to make when we've dealt with, parts of the state of Ohio. And every one of those things is a negotiation, right? Like I've got a big client that we've got a 1,000-hour block for projects with. And I was willing to put those through quite a bit of red lines and go back and forth to come to a mutual agreement because it's, essentially $150,000, $200,000 worth of contract value. Yeah. But, when you're paying me $200 a month, my appetite for sending things to the $400+ an hour lawyer to get them reviewed, probably pretty low.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. The client has they want like the arbitration moved to their state.
No,
and it's not Michigan or Ohio. They're an out-of-state client, and it's like they're just pushing a little hard and like, sorry. And I don't know if this is a ploy by them or not because they're not the most communicative person on this topic. So we'll tell them no, and we'll see where it lands. They may go, well, we tried and move on. I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's like. If they have a strong legal team, then legal teams have opinions, and at some point or another, it just doesn't make sense, right? The amount you get to push me around my terms is related to how much money you pay me. And
it's reciprocal.
So billing is going, as I pointed out earlier. I think this week we'll manage. I'll build the most of the backlog of the outstanding hourly stuff. You guys had a lot because of Invoice Ninja, and this is a spot where I think Sell is way better. Sell is a lot more consistent because we use a lot of quote templates and stuff. So I've had some trouble decoding the intentions of some of the line items given out in Invoice Ninja. So it's like, okay, what's the billing rate on this client if they do this kind of work versus this kind of work, and codifying some of those rules into things that I can set up and manage that doesn't make the techs have to think about it has actually been relatively difficult. And I'm working through the last of those, at least for the stuff that's outstanding to be billed. So they'll all build.
And we had gone through a lot of that as well with the clients that you'd already input and stuff.
Yeah,
so
we had, and I don't. You saw what I said in the channel yesterday.
What made me laugh is Jason. He's trying to decipher the magical incantation that created some of these billboards.
Yes. Yeah. It's like you need the Cracker Jack secret decoder ring to decode the stuff written on lemon juice on a piece of paper. So.
Yes. Jason, we lit candles. Okay. Yeah. We lit candles.
Dance and one of these days we'll talk about the Nate story of how those weird numbers got there too.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I'm going to tell you, I've been impressed with how everything's worked. Honestly, I mean, yes, I've got more gray hair, but I've been impressed with how it's all transpired and just flowed. Yes, people are stressed, people are worked. Matt wants to kill me half the time, but we are still working towards the same common goal, and it's flowing.
Well, our focus has been service delivery too. Yeah. Above all else, service the client. Even if you don't know how to fill out the ticket in our managed system properly, in Nil properly, just service the client, get the thing fixed, and we'll sort it out later. That's been. It's not like, hey, don't fix the client until you understand how to use a tool. No, we still are client first. Like, hey, make sure these things get fixed. That's what's kept the sanity, because that's what keeps the clients. Because ultimately, if there's no clients, there's no reason to learn manage.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and to be fair, if Matt isn't wanting to kill you at some point or another, you're probably not doing it right.
I like Matt. I
agree. It amuses me greatly. I have a lot of respect for Matt. A lot.
If Matt gets the caps lock key going, he's gonna see something fun.
Yes. And so I think you weren't there, Brett, but Tom got to experience his first spicy leadership team meeting.
Why experience a spicy Slack meeting? I mean, that was interesting, but all in all, I think what's going on and what's happened is we all had a common goal, and I think we've achieved that common goal to make things continue to move forward.
So let's take this final question and we'll wrap here. I think he left; he had to go to a meeting, but we doing anything special to get the employees together? So we did have an all hands. I do quarterly all hands. I am I think relatively very transparent with finances and all the other numbers that come. So every quarter we have a meeting, we go over the US stuff. We're an US shop, right? So we go over rocks, we go over finance goals, we go over how we did for the quarter, we go over the finances and all that other stuff. So we had your whole team down for that night. Or I guess that the night before that, we did the pedal pub. I think you two came down, but no one else from your team did. I think they have regrets for not coming down.
They do. There was some confusion because it was the first time they didn't understand the full thing. Oh, I can bring my significant other type thing. This didn't know. And I was it's not just business people only. So I think that's going to, they understand better. They will, if you send out the invite, you will get a different response today than you had that time. We'll just say that.
And I think, Tom, we were talking about doing something up your way to try to invite some of some of the team down here up. Something
I have
board
the
game
place
night or
for
something.
It.
Okay.
I have the place for it. So it's one of a client of ours actually that has an adult entertainment. Well, hold on, let me back up.
Yeah, you should stop. You should stop and clarify that.
An adult. Shoot, I can't even say it right.
Yeah,
a place where adults can go and have fun throwing axes and playing video games and stuff. Yeah, and
fun. I did a whole video on how he built Revved Up Fun.
Yeah, it's actually a really great place, and
that was a fun build.
She's in one of my networking groups also, so we're gonna get a pretty sweet deal when we want to plan that. So
yeah, I'd love to do that. I have the anything we can do. So Tom, I'll actually be out that way Thursday, so maybe we can record something Thursday if we can work something out. Like maybe I don't know if we'll get the VMware video done in time, but but I'm gonna head up that way.
Technology's there too.
Okay.
There you go.
We can head up that. I'm gonna head up that way, and I've been trying to, offer to take one of the guys from down here up with me if they're not busy that day. Just try to get people together, and we're only about 45 minutes apart, so it's not super onerous. Like we're not halfway across the state or the country, so it's not been that bad. And I think the teams are starting to mesh better than they were, and I think it's going well.
I brought up games because they're all on the gaming channel together. So they're all.
Yeah. We play. So every Friday, typically to blow off steam, assuming they've got stuff under control going into the weekend. We try to do relatively read-only Friday and not make any bigger changes. So assuming they're relatively caught up on tickets and stuff outstanding, they play golf with friends most every Friday. They bet $5 in our peer-to-peer bonus system. So the end result of that is basically every Friday, Matt gets like, $60 or $70 because for some reason he's just a natural at that game.
Yes.
He's learned the cheat codes. So that's what
I've been practicing.
That's what it is.
But they're having fun, and I'm glad to see it. So
yeah,
cool.
It's been a great ride.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
Yeah, so I am excited. This is something we want people to reach out to us more. I should probably just at the beginning of the video, ask questions about the merger. Me and Jason are two very transparent people. It's one of the reasons we get along so well. And, things that led to this merger is the fact that we think a lot alike. We have maybe different nuances to how we get things done, but our goal is the same. The way we want to service the customers, the way we want to be fair with the contracts and do things very security first. So we also, once again, back to the transparency, ask questions. We're not always sure what you want to know. But we're usually willing to talk about it.
Yeah, there's very little, none of this stuff is secret, right? Like it's, if there was a super secret sauce, maybe I'd be a little more cautious with it. But none of this, as
it's
far
all
as
execution. It's not the secret sauce. It's all getting things done. Merging the companies is all about the delivery of the action, not the actual thought process. Everyone's got ideas. Ideas are cheap. Ideas are easy. Everybody has ideas. Execution is everything.
90% of what we're doing is just stuff that, people like Kyle Christensen and Alex Farling and other people have brought to me, and Will from Baron McKinley, right? These are all just ideas that have come from greats before us that we're just trying to execute as best as we can. So not secrets.
I will tell you for my final thought, it's been a good ride. Lot to learn, it's not an easy task. This wasn't easy. But we've tried to be transparent to everybody out there on how it's gone and what we still need to work on. Just know that when you as a company decides to do something like this, you're going to need to put some time into it.
Yeah, it's less time than I expected. Again, we're farther along than I thought we would be at this point, but it's a non-zero amount of time and a non-zero amount of stress. It was good to be able to take the time away last week to go to ChannelCon. It comes at the cost of this week. So Cool.
We
We
have-
have. What do you want to get this final question? Yeah.
How did you get your first? Okay, can I ask this for you guys? Okay, I'm going to ask Tom. I'm going to ask Jason first, and then Tom. So, Jason, how did you get your first customer in business?
So the first MSP customer came from they're no longer with us. We parted ways with them earlier this year, but it was a friend of a friend, essentially, right? It was a guy that was in a networking group, wasn't really necessarily doing sales for us at the time, actually worked for Page Plus Cellular, who is, the company that was acquired by TracFone. We still service, that was acquired by Verizon, that we still service today. But he was their operations manager and knew somebody. And we were looking to move into the MSP market, and they were our first one. Then it's kind of gone from there. A lot of referrals from them, some amount of cold calling. We do that. Tom and I have had pretty good discussions about that, because he doesn't necessarily view us necessary. I don't either, but the alternative takes time to incubate, and we're not there yet. How about you?
Right, Tom, how about you? How'd you get your first customer?
The company I worked for went bankrupt, and I turned them into my first customer. I was their head of IT. So are they in my first customer? I guess kind of. And then trucking companies are like, I don't know. They're like cells that divide, because they fight with each other, and then they divide. I'm screw you, and I'm starting another trucking company. Hey, like who's MSPs. That guy that fixed our computers? And then there's a reason we have all these trucking companies that have been with us and now with CNWR for like 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
We call it, because the way we number our clients, we call them a 3-digit club, because they have these 3-digit numbers next to them, because they've been with us since like 2006 and 7 when they first started their companies. So I'm going to do a video soon on that, because a lot of people have asked, and I kind of want to document it, because this is one more like big stake in the history of Tom of, hey, I just sold my company. I started it 20 years later. I merged it into CWR. So I want to tell the story arc, because people ask, that way I could just like point to a video. Here's the story of how I got here, the winding, meandering path of things I did, which includes even owning an electronics repair store and all kinds of fun stuff.
Interesting. Cool. That's awesome. I think end us out here, Jason. Get us out of here.
Yeah, no, I think everyone have a great week. All the things you're supposed to say on YouTube, right? You're supposed to hit the little button and the bell and the other things. Yeah. And we're happy to do this. I got a lot of good feedback again at ChannelCon about how transparent we're being, and we'll continue to do that. I think next week we'll have more traditional content. We'll still try to continue to do these merger updates, probably every 3 weeks to a month for the ongoing future. So there's not really much to talk about. At some point we'll run out of things to talk about with it, and we'll go back to more regular content. Right. But we'll keep doing them, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Later.
Bye, everyone.